Today we're going to be doing a Q&A like you've probably not seen before on the channel. We've reached out to a number of our most loyal fans, our coaching students, and many people watching content just like you, and we said, hey, submit all your questions you might have, and I'm going to read them out live here on YouTube, and I'm going to be answering your questions live. One question is, how can you look at a deal and tell if it's a good deal or not? When it comes to investment properties, I look for three key things. Number one, I want to be buying it at a cheap or a great intrinsic value, which means for the most part, if it's an industrial or retail, a good price per square foot. If it's multifamily, a good price per unit. If market value is here, I want to buy it here. Number two is that it cash flows day one, which means the day I close, I put down my down payment, I get my loan, or I pay cash or whatever, I am cash flowing, which means the property is generating enough where it covers, not only covers my mortgage and all my expenses, but it's got some money left over for me to be paid cash flow, right? Like a profit at the end of the day after all the expenses, debt, and everything. So it has to cash flow day one, that's another thing. And number three, it needs to have a good, if not great, value add component to the deal. So if you're looking at a property and the rents are super low, and you know that hypothetically for this 10-unit multifamily that are each rented at $1,000, you know that you could increase the rental allowance, like market value is $1,500, right, a month. What can I do to increase the value of this property? So if you quickly look at a property, you can check those three markers, you're gonna be able to tell if it's a good deal or not. What are some of the best practices for following up with somebody after a letter of intent? What I typically will do is this. Let's just say we got some information on the property, we've submitted the letter of intent, we submitted an offer on their property. We want a response. What I typically would recommend doing is that when I submit a letter of intent, I want to call them so that I can negotiate over the phone right off the bat. Submitting an offer via email and then just kind of sitting there praying and hoping they respond, crossing your fingers hoping they accept your offer, that's not negotiating. Negotiating is calling this person up and negotiating over the phone saying, hey, John, I just submitted an offer like I had mentioned to you over the phone. Do you have 2 minutes to review it with me? Yes, I have 2 minutes. Or no, I don't. Can you call me later? Okay, great. When do you have time for us to review it? 6 o'clock tonight. Great. I'm going to call you at 6 p.m. tonight. We're going to review the letter of intent together. Fantastic. Because I want to be able to not have them look at the letter of intent and then not respond to my email and ghost me. I want to be able to do it together. I want to be able to review it with them. So I like to submit the letter of intent and call them at the same exact time so I can negotiate. So I can literally just tell them over the phone what it is. If people are ghosting you, if people are not answering you, it's okay to pass a number around. One thing on my team that we do all the time is that we pass numbers around all the time. So they're like, hey, John, all of a sudden stopped answering one of our sales guys. He started ghosting him because maybe they're calling him too many times, which by the way, I'm gonna tell you, I've lost more deals because I didn't follow up enough than following up too much. So just keep that in mind. Don't feel like you're harassing somebody. You're trying to sell a deal. It's okay. You're allowed to be quote unquote aggressive in trying to get a deal done. What are some seller financing examples? The purpose of getting seller financing is where you can get better debt costs by having the seller hold the mortgage instead of a bank, because a bank can be quite expensive. And the other cool part also is that when you have a seller hold the mortgage because they don't have a current mortgage on their property, or you put enough down where they no longer have a mortgage on the property, is that you also don't have to pay crazy high closing costs. There's a lot less closing costs. So you're gonna save yourself money in closing costs and save yourself money when it comes to debt payments. That's the idea of seller financing, as well as you also will have a much lower down payment. Let's just say somebody wants $2 million for their property. You submitted an offer, all cash, mortgage contingency offer of like $1 million. Like, well, that's ridiculous. I would never take it. I want $2 million, yada, yada. But I'd like to sell it if I can because I don't want to deal with the management. So just out of curiosity, would you be open to taking payments over time? That's the best way I like to say. Would you be open to taking payments over time? They say yes. Like, okay, how much money down would you need in order to make sense of selling the property? How much money would you need up front? So let them answer. You don't have to give them an answer. Let them answer it. They say like, well, I need $500,000. Now that's 25% of a $2 million deal. Say, okay, great. Now that's the first benchmark. You could offer them $300,000. If they start with 5, you can start with, then you go back at 3. But again, you can go back in and say like, listen, I'll do $250 down or $300,000 down. And how much money do you need on a monthly basis? Do not talk about interest rate. At what interest rate would you hold a note? Don't talk about interest. Talk about how much on a monthly basis do you need in order to make sense of holding a mortgage for us? And he says, okay, well, I want $10,000 a month. Okay, 10 grand a month, cool. So what I would then go back to them and say, look, I spoke it over with my partners, I spoke it over with my buyer. The best we're willing to come in at is $250,000 down and $7,500 a month. Is that if they were to accept that, think about it. Now I have a $1.75 million mortgage and I'm only paying $7,500 a month. Incredibly cheap interest rate. But this is why I don't talk in interest. I only will talk in monthly payment. By doing both those things, you're gonna have the ability to infinitely increase your returns. What is your favorite CRM? Well, I use several different CRMs, and I want to be very clear with you. I've been using essentially the same CRMs for vastly large majority of my career, which are the following three, and I use them for all different reasons, and I have a VA that has been managing them for quite some time. So one of them is Brivity. Brivity has been really good for like automatic texting, text campaigns, and tasks. That was my residential CRM system, and then once I started transitioning into commercial years ago, we got into REI Reply and Follow Up Boss. Now, they kind of intertwine, which is kind of cool. So REI Reply we use for all of our campaigns, texts, ring list, voicemails, and emails. And then Follow Up Boss we use for organization, specific emails that we send out because we can track everything, as well as organization and details about the lead. Everything's all in one place. It's really nice and simple. So REI Reply is more of a marketing tool, and then we use Follow Up Boss for more of a CRM organizational tool. I've actually had these CRMs, and I prefer using CRMs that are not attached to certain brokerages, because if, for whatever reason you want to leave a brokerage, now the brokerage has all your data, I don't like that. I like being able to use my own softwares that I pay for, that I control, so I can be anywhere at any brokerage at any time and continue to run my business. Can you give us an example of back of the napkin underwriting for industrial, retail, and multifamily properties? Okay, so really quick math. What you're going to look at, like we had mentioned at the very beginning, to kind of come up with a valuation, what you're going to look at is what are the market sales going for. So look on CoStar is a really good tool. LoopNet is a very cool tool. If you have Reonomy, you can use that as well and see what other sales have occurred recently. And you can try to look up for like multifamily as an example. I cross-reference, even though I have CoStar, Reonomy, and LoopNet access, I will look at all three of them all the time and try to get the most information I possibly can from all three so I can come up with the best data as a collaborative effort across the software. When I'm looking at something like, let's take industrial first, I want to know how big the property was and what the price per square foot that it traded at. I also want to know what the cap rate was when it sold. Well, let's just say in a certain area, 3 properties have sold within a half a mile radius of the, let's say you have an industrial property that's 20,000 square feet, 20,000 square foot industrial building, and 3 properties within a half a mile of that property that are between 15,000 and 30,000 square feet have sold for $180 to $200 a square foot, and they all sold between a 6.5% cap rate to a 8% cap rate. Okay, cool. Well, within a fairly reasonable doubt that the price per square foot of this building market value should be somewhere between $180 and $200 a square foot. So I'm probably going to try to make an offer of less than $180 a square foot. Maybe I'll start at $150 or $160. And then I'm also going to want to start a cap rate. If a cap rate right now is trading anywhere between 6.5 and 8, I'll make an offer at a 10 or a 9 cap. And I'm like, okay, I'll just throw in an offer. If I know that this is market, I'll make an offer here to start off with my letters of intent. Okay, because I want to know what the seller's willing to take. And if you're a seller watching this video, if you don't share with me what you're willing to take, I can't get you a serious offer. And if you don't give me all the financials up front, if you don't give us all the leases and all the details accurately to what it is currently today, it's very hard to get you the strongest offer possible. How to scale and build systems and a team to get to $1 million a year. To just make it really short and sweet for you, first, you have to personally get to $200,000 to $500,000 a year, because you cannot educate other people on how to do that. Like, I see a lot of people who are making $50,000 to $100,000 a year, and they want to hire a bunch of salespeople. I'm like, you don't even know how to make a lot of money. How could you teach somebody else to do that? Like, they're not going to surpass you. It's like, you need to get to 200 to 500 grand a year, and then when you get to like the 200 to 500, you can start hiring salespeople. And in the meantime, when you're at like the 50 grand or 100 or 150 grand, you can hire an administrative assistant who takes care of all your paperwork and your emails and all, writing up your offers and managing your CRM system and all these other little things, so you don't have to deal with that. You're slowly growing the team over time, but as you grow, because your team will only grow to the extent you grow. Within your 50 to 150 per year, hire an administrative assistant who takes care of all the transactional coordination of work, administrative work, organizational stuff with your CRM, handles a lot, maybe a small part of your marketing, handles your emails, all the small nonchalant tasks. Then when you get to like 250, 350, 400, 500 grand, you can start hiring a salesperson where it's another agent, a licensed agent, 100% of the time licensed, and you're going to teach them how to prospect just like you. You're not going to stop prospecting. It's going to be you and them prospecting, because now it's double the effort to get again, you're going to add on 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% of your income. So if you're making 500 grand a year, you're going to be able to add on probably another 200 to 300 grand a year because of their prospecting efforts and your ability to close. And then you can add another person, should add another 20, 30, 40% to your income. So it's by you growing, you're going to also be able to teach and coach these individuals, but you need to be the one who hits a certain level first. So I do believe that you can get to roughly $1 million a year with you one administrative assistant, and then 1, 2, or 3 agents on your team that are also prospecting with you. So last question is, what is the difference between a 100K producer and $1 million producer? A 100K producer does not prioritize lead generation at all. They don't prioritize it, and they don't look to build a team. I think that's like 2 of the biggest things. It's like if you prioritize lead generation more than anything, and you get very skillful on the phone with your communication and your level of expertise with networking and really building a strong foundation of buyers, and, in your prioritizing lead generation and networking, and you're working on building a team, it's very hard not to make a lot of money in this business, okay? But if most 100K a year producers are not prospecting enough, they're not, they're not spending enough time lead generating, they're not working on their skills, they're not good closers, they're not working on, trying to network with more buyers, like they're really just making it sort of like a la-di-da thing, because it's really hard that if you are consistent, right? Because their consistency levels are just not there, right? Like their mindset is just not at the quality, like they're not spending so much time on working and improving on themselves. They don't want high levels of accountability. Again, most people who are making several $100,000 or $1 million+ a year are being coached. They have mentorship, they have guidance, and all these other things. So if you want to really scale up from $100,000 a year to $1 million a year, let's get mentorship, get coaching. Reach out to listen. Some of my best mentors right now are my clients, people who are worth tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Are really supporting me and growing. So it's like a lot about the mindset, the consistency, prioritizing lead generation, and slowly but surely building a team and having massive levels of accountability from a coach and a mentor. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I love videos like this. Again, if you have any questions that I can answer for you, make sure you drop it in the comment section down below. We'll make sure we do a lot more videos just like this in the future. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you've yet to do so already. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.